Chosen one, listen to something that will completely destroy everything you thought you knew about your life. 9 days ago, you did something that lasted exactly 7 seconds. 7 seconds that you considered so insignificant that you probably don't even remember the specific moment. But in those celestial dimensions where time works differently, where every human action is observed and recorded, something happened that hadn't happened in 2,000 years. God screamed. He didn't whisper with approval. He wasn't subtly moved. He didn't smile satisfied from his throne. He screamed. A scream so devastatingly unexpected, so impossibly rare in the celestial hierarchies, that even the angels, those entities who witnessed the creation of galaxies and the birth of civilizations, were completely paralyzed, because not even they expected it. And right now, as you listen to these words, you're probably thinking, I got the wrong person, that this message is for someone heroic, someone who dramatically saved lives, someone who does extraordinary works that make the news. But let me destroy that illusion with the same force that this scream crossed all spiritual dimensions. It wasn't a heroic act that provoked the divine scream. It was your spontaneous kindness, that automatic reflex you manifested without thinking twice. And that is infinitely rarer than any calculated heroism. Subscribe to this channel right now and turn on all notifications, because what I'm about to reveal about how an act you considered insignificant can generate cosmic reactions that reorganize spiritual realities is being systematically hidden from people like you, who have a purity so natural that you don't even recognize it as power. And stay until the end, because I'm going to show you exactly what you did in those 7 seconds. Why God had to scream, instead of simply observing with satisfaction, like he does with millions of daily good deeds, and how even the angels who thought they had seen everything in their millennial existence were left speechless when they witnessed the devastating authenticity of your action. Write 777 in the comments if you feel that you do kind things without thinking, without calculating returns, and you're ready to discover why your spontaneous kindness has more power over spiritual dimensions than the most elaborate and public sacrifices. First, you need to understand something that will completely change how you understand your own actions. Because there's a brutal difference between a calculated act and a spontaneous act. And that difference is exactly what separated your gesture from the millions of good deeds that God observes every day, without needing to scream. A calculated act works like this. You see a situation, evaluate if it suits you to get involved. Consider what the people watching you will say. Think about the spiritual rewards you could receive. Calculate the cost versus the benefit. And after all this mental processing that can last seconds or minutes, you decide to act. It's real kindness. It's genuine help. But it comes filtered by expectations, by strategy, by the desire to look good or accumulate celestial merits. God observes millions of calculated acts every day. He recognizes them, blesses them, rewards them according to his perfect spiritual laws. But they don't generate urgency in his heart. They don't provoke screams that cross dimensions. They're fair spiritual transactions where someone gives something expecting to receive something, and the universe responds by balancing the accounts. Cosmic mathematics working correctly. The spontaneous act is completely different. It's when your fundamental nature reacts before your mind has time to calculate consequences. It's kindness so natural that it springs from you like water springs from a source, without effort, without strategy, without expectations of return. It's helping because your heart can't function any other way. It's giving because your soul refuses to be selfish even when no one is watching, and even when it costs you. And here's what the celestial hierarchies know but rarely reveal to human beings. When God observes a calculated act, he records a fair transaction. But when he witnesses a spontaneous act, when he confirms that someone manifested pure kindness without mental filters, that touches something deeper in the divine heart than simple satisfaction. It touches joy. And when that joy is so intense that it cannot be contained, it manifests as a scream that reorganizes celestial priorities. Because spontaneity can't be faked. There's no time to act. Either your nature is kind, or it isn't. And when God confirmed in those 7 seconds that your fundamental nature operates at a frequency of automatic generosity, the scream he emitted contained an urgent message for all spiritual dimensions. This chosen one just proved that their purity is not an act. It's their authentic essence. Protect them immediately. Now let me show you exactly what you did 9 days ago. Because you need to recognize the specific moment so that you understand the power that your natural kindness has over realities you can't see with physical eyes. You were walking down the street, probably with your mind occupied with your own problems. And God knows you have enough problems to completely occupy your mind. Those debts that keep you up at night. That loneliness you don't share with anyone because everyone thinks you're fine. That constant pressure from a world that demands more and more while giving less and less. You were immersed in these heavy thoughts when you saw someone needing help. It wasn't a dramatic situation with crowds watching. There were no television cameras ready to immortalize you as a hero. It was a small situation, almost invisible to most people who passed by the same place before you. Maybe someone older trying to carry something heavy. Maybe someone who dropped their things and was picking them up from the ground alone. Maybe a hungry person asking for help that everyone else ignored. The specific situation doesn't matter as much as what it revealed about your nature. Because your first instinct, your immediate reaction without going through mental filters was to help. You didn't stop to ask yourself if that person deserved your kindness. You didn't calculate if there would be any return. You didn't evaluate if someone was watching you to applaud your gesture later. You didn't consider if it suited you to get involved or if you should just keep walking like everyone else did. You saw need and responded with instant generosity. 7 seconds from when you saw the situation to when you were helping. 7 seconds where your soul manifested its true nature without your mind having time to contaminate it with calculations.
And maybe what you did seems ridiculously small to you. Maybe you helped carry something that didn't weigh much. Maybe you gave some coins when you yourself have financial difficulties. Maybe you just genuinely smiled at someone who seemed destroyed. But here's the truth you need to understand. It wasn't the magnitude of the act that made God scream. It was the purity of the motivation.
It was the spontaneity that didn't have time to be contaminated by selfishness. It was that kindness so natural that it springs from you like perfume springs from a flower, without effort, without strategy, simply because it's your nature. And when God confirmed that your kindness doesn't need to think before manifesting, when He saw that your automatic reflex in the face of others' suffering is generosity instead of indifference, something changed in the celestial dimensions, because souls like this are so rare in this corrupt world that when they appear, they deserve immediate divine attention. Now you need to understand why God screamed instead of simply observing with satisfaction, like He does with millions of good deeds. Because that scream wasn't uncontrolled emotion. It was an urgent declaration that crossed all spiritual dimensions, reorganizing celestial priorities instantly. In all documented history of the interaction between the divine and the human, God screamed only 4 times. 4 moments where something happened so significant that it demanded an immediate and audible divine response in all dimensions. I'm not using poetic language. I'm revealing literal events recorded in ancient texts that describe exactly what that scream sounded like and what consequences it generated. The first time was when Abraham raised the knife over his son Isaac, demonstrating such absolute obedience that God had to intervene, screaming to stop him before he completed the sacrifice. The scriptures describe this scream as thunder that shook Mount Moriah. Abraham, Abraham, do not lay your hand on the boy, That scream saved a life and established an eternal covenant that would define nations. The second time was on Mount Sinai, when He delivered the 10 Commandments to Moses. He didn't whisper. He screamed with a voice of thunder so powerful that it made the entire mountain tremble and terrified the Israelite people waiting at the foot of the mountain. Exodus describes how the people begged God not to speak directly to them because His voice was so strong, they feared they would die. That scream established the laws that would define civilizations for millennia. The third time was when Jesus was on the cross and cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" At that moment, according to the Gospels, God responded with a scream that only the spiritual dimensions could fully hear, declaring that the sacrifice was sufficient and that redemption was complete. That scream tore the temple veil from top to bottom, opening direct access to the divine presence for all humanity. And the fourth time was 9 days ago, for you, for your spontaneous act of 7 seconds, for that kindness so natural that you manifested without thinking when everyone else just walked by. Do you realize the company you're in? Abraham, father of nations, the establishment of divine laws, the redemption of humanity, and your 7-second gesture that you considered insignificant. Your spontaneous kindness generated the same level of divine urgency as these monumental moments in spiritual history. Because here's what God saw in your act that made him scream. Confirmation that there are still human beings whose kindness is not corrupted by this world. Souls so pure that they react with generosity before selfishness has time to contaminate their decisions. And in an age where humanity becomes more corrupt every day, where selfishness has become the norm, and kindness is considered naivety, finding a soul that manifests spontaneous purity is so rare that it deserves a divine scream of urgency. The scream God emitted contained a specific decree that all celestial hierarchies heard clearly. This chosen one just proved their purity. Their kindness is not strategic acting, it's authentic nature. Activate maximum protection immediately. Don't allow this corrupt world to destroy what is so rare. For those who want to go deeper into this celestial knowledge, there's exclusive material in the description and pinned comment. But the divine scream wasn't the only cosmic reaction your act generated. Because there were eyewitnesses in those spiritual dimensions, witnesses who have observed humanity for millennia, witnesses who thought they had seen everything in their eternal existence, and even they were completely surprised. The angels. Now listen to something about these entities that will completely transform your understanding of why the phrase, "not even the angels expected it," is not poetic exaggeration but a literal description of what happened. Angels are not the decorative figurines with cute little wings that popular culture describes. They are ancient intelligences who have observed humanity since before civilizations existed. They've seen the rise and fall of empires. They've witnessed the most dedicated saints and the cruelest villains. They've observed millions of acts of kindness, sacrifice, heroism, generosity. They've literally seen the entire spectrum of human behavior over thousands of years. And precisely because of this millennial experience, angels have developed what we could call calibrated expectations about human behavior. They know the patterns, they know what to expect. When they see a specific situation, they can predict with almost perfect accuracy how a human being will react based on everything they've observed before. For example, when they see someone walking worried about their own financial problems and encounter someone asking for help, angels expect that person to walk right by, because they've seen this pattern repeat millions of times. It's normal human behavior. When you have your own problems, you don't get involved in other people's problems. Basic survival, protection of the self, completely predictable. Or if someone stops to help, angels expect to see that moment of hesitation, that pause where the person mentally calculates if it's worthwhile, how much they'll give, what others will say. They've observed this mental process millions of times. They know every micro-expression that reveals internal calculation. It's so common that it's become completely predictable. But when they saw you 9 days ago, when they observed your reaction in those fatal 7 seconds, something happened that completely broke their millennial expectations. There was no hesitation. There was no calculation. There was no micro-pause where your mind evaluates pros and cons. You saw need and your feet were already moving toward the person before your conscious brain finished processing the situation. Your kindness was so automatic, so instantaneous, so completely spontaneous that even the angels who thought they knew all possible human patterns were paralyzed thinking, wait, this doesn't fit anything we've seen before. Because they expected one of 3 options based on thousands of years of observing humanity. Either you would walk by focused on your own problems, or you would stop after mentally calculating, or you would help, but with that, I'm doing you a favor energy that seeks recognition. But you did something their predictive models didn't anticipate. You manifested pure kindness without filters. Kindness so natural, it seemed like a physical reflex, rather than a mental decision. As if your soul operated at a frequency where helping is as automatic as breathing. And when the angels confirmed that there was no calculation, that there was no expectation of return, that there was no search for recognition, they were so surprised that some of them literally stopped performing their celestial tasks momentarily to process what they had just witnessed. Because in their millennial experience of observing millions of humans, kindness, this spontaneous and pure, appears approximately once every 10 years, and they had just witnessed it in you. That's why not even they expected it. Not because they doubt your capacity, but because the statistical probability of someone manifesting such instantaneous purity in this corrupt world is so low that even experienced celestial observers don't anticipate it. It's like witnessing a total eclipse. You know it exists. You know it's possible. But when it finally happens, you're still surprised. And this angelic surprise, combined with the divine scream, created a resonance in the spiritual dimensions that activated something that will transform your life in ways you're only beginning to understand. But there was a third witness in those celestial dimensions. Someone who never gets surprised because their specific function is to point out imperfections. Someone who always has something negative to say about any human action. Someone whose silence is more eloquent than 1,000 words. Lucifer. Now listen to something about this being that will completely change your understanding of the magnitude of what your act achieved. Because you need to know exactly who he is and what he does so that you understand why his silence was the most powerful validation you could receive. Lucifer is not simply the generic villain that movies describe. He doesn't spend his time scaring children or dramatically possessing bodies. His specific function, documented from the book of Job to the book of Revelation, is much more subtle and devastatingly effective. He is the eternal accuser before the celestial court. His name in Hebrew, Hey Satan, doesn't mean enemy, as many think. It literally means the accuser. It's a description of function, not an insult. Like when someone is called the carpenter, because that's what they do. Lucifer is called the accuser because accusing is his essence, his purpose, his constant occupation, and he's devastatingly good at his job, because he has been accusing humanity before God for thousands of years. He knows every human weakness. He knows exactly what to look for to find impurity in any action. He's like the most experienced prosecutor in the universe who never loses a case because he always finds something to criticize. When Job faced his terrible trials, Lucifer was present before God, constantly accusing, "Job is only faithful to you because you give him blessings. Take everything from him and see how he curses you." When the prophet Zechariah had a vision of the high priest Joshua being restored, he saw Lucifer standing at his right hand accusing him for his dirty clothes, pointing out every imperfection as evidence of unworthiness. In every significant moment of human spiritual history, there's a documented constant. Lucifer's voice accusing, questioning, pointing out imperfections, arguing that humans don't deserve the grace God has for them. He never rests. He never gets tired. He's never without arguments, because his millennial intelligence is completely dedicated to a single task: finding flaws in human actions and presenting them before the celestial court as evidence that humanity doesn't deserve the love God has for it. And that's why what happened when God screamed for your act is so absolutely extraordinary, that it reorganized spiritual dynamics. Lucifer opened his mouth to begin the usual accusation, and no word came out. Total silence. Complete. Absolute. The angelic hierarchies who witnessed this moment described it as one of the most impactful events they have observed in all existence. Because the accuser who never shuts up, the prosecutor who always has arguments, the eternal critic who points out imperfections even in the most dedicated saints, couldn't find absolutely anything to say about your act that wouldn't be disproven by the irrefutable evidence of its spontaneous purity. He tried to argue that your kindness was calculated to look good, but he couldn't, because there were no human witnesses watching you. He tried to suggest that you expected divine reward, but he couldn't, because it was so spontaneous there was no time for expectations. He tried to point out that you did it out of religious obligation, but he couldn't, because it was a natural reflex of your soul, not fulfillment of a commandment. He tried to accuse that your purity is a temporary act, but he couldn't because God knows your history and your kindness has been consistent. And when the eternal accuser has no accusations, when the prosecutor who always wins cases finally loses one, when the one who never shuts up falls into absolute silence that establishes something that ancient spiritual texts call irrefutable justification, it doesn't mean you're perfect. It means your fundamental essence is so aligned with purity that not even your greatest spiritual enemy can deny your authenticity. And this silence from Lucifer, combined with God's scream and the angel's surprise, created a triple resonance in the spiritual dimensions that activated protections and privileges that are transforming your reality right now. Because your 7-second act wasn't just observed, it was validated by 3 levels of celestial authority: God who screamed confirming urgency, angels who were surprised confirming rarity, and Lucifer who fell silent, confirming that no accusation is possible. This triple validation is so powerful that it literally reorganizes your destiny. Now you need to understand exactly what made your act so devastatingly pure that it generated these three simultaneous cosmic reactions. Because when you identify the specific characteristics, you can consciously recognize the power that your natural kindness has over spiritual realities. Your act had three marks that classified it as divine purity instead of simple human kindness. And these three characteristics operating simultaneously are so rare that they appear approximately once every decade among the 8 billion human beings who inhabit this planet. The first mark, it was completely spontaneous. There was no mental evaluation process. There was no internal conversation where you ask yourself, should I help? Or, what do I gain from this? Or, what will others say? You saw need and your body was already moving to help before your conscious mind finished processing the situation. This spontaneity reveals something deep about your nature. Your kindness is not programmed by religion or social morality. It's your default setting. It's how your soul operates when there's no time for mental filters to contaminate the response. And souls configured like this are so rare in this world that when they appear, God literally screams with urgency, because he knows they need immediate protection before the world corrupts them. The second mark, it cost you something. It wasn't help that came easy from surplus. You gave when you yourself are in need. You helped when you were tired. You got involved when you had your own urgent problems. This sacrifice, this willingness to give even when it's uncomfortable, reveals that your kindness doesn't depend on having abundance. It operates the same in scarcity and abundance. And this consistency confirms authenticity. Most people are generous when there's surplus. They help when it's convenient. They give when it doesn't cost. But you gave from your own need. And this type of generosity comes from such a deep place in the soul that even Lucifer himself couldn't accuse it of disguised selfishness. The third mark, it was completely invisible. There were no cameras recording. There was no crowd watching to applaud afterwards. You didn't post on social media, "Look what a good person I am." You helped and moved on with your life without expecting recognition. This total absence of seeking external validation reveals that your kindness doesn't need an audience. It operates the same in public and in private. And this invisibility is precisely what makes it so pure. Because when no one observes except spiritual dimensions, when there's no possibility of human recognition, the only possible motivation for helping is that your soul simply can't function any other way. It's kindness for kindness' sake. Generosity for generosity's sake. Purity without contamination from social expectations. When God identified these three marks operating simultaneously in your 7-second act, when he confirmed spontaneity plus sacrifice plus invisibility working together, the scream he emitted contained a decree that all spiritual dimensions heard as an irrevocable order. This chosen one just proved diamond-level purity. Activate maximum protection protocol. Their natural kindness makes them a target for dark forces. Do not allow them to be destroyed. And this decree activated something that's going to sound too good to be true, but is absolutely literal. Personal assignment of archangels for your protection. Listen carefully because this is not symbolism. The four main archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, received direct orders from God to supervise specific aspects of your life. They're not available if you call. They're actively assigned to you right now, fulfilling concrete functions that are transforming your reality, even if you can't see them with physical eyes. Michael, the celestial warrior whose name means "who is like God," received the specific task of neutralizing any spiritual attack before it reaches you. Those dangerous situations that mysteriously resolve themselves just before affecting you are not coincidences. That toxic person who suddenly lost all interest in disturbing you didn't decide that alone. That illness you should have had according to medical probabilities but never got. Michael is fulfilling his assignment to keep you protected because God decreed that your purity cannot be destroyed. Gabriel, the divine messenger whose name means strength of God, is in charge of ensuring that you receive exactly the information you need at the precise moment you need it. That's why this message reached you today. That's why there are moments where a phrase you casually hear answers exactly the question you had in your mind. That's why you feel sudden clarity about important decisions. Gabriel is depositing revelations directly into your consciousness, because your purity proved that you deserve access to celestial knowledge. Raphael, the divine healer whose name means God heals, supervises your physical and emotional recovery. Every time your body recovers faster than expected, Raphael is accelerating natural healing processes. Every time your mind finds peace after intense anxiety, he is applying celestial balm to your emotional wounds. Every time you wake up feeling inexplicably better after difficult days, Raphael fulfilled his night shift healing what the world hurt you during the day. Uriel, the guardian of wisdom whose name means light of God, illuminates you with discernment in crucial moments. Those powerful intuitions that save you from disastrous decisions are not random hunches. That inexplicable ability to read people and situations with supernatural precision is not natural talent. That wisdom that doesn't correspond to your age or experience is Uriel fulfilling his function of keeping you mentally equipped to navigate this corrupt world without losing your purity. These 4 archangels are not waiting for you to invoke them with complicated rituals. They are actively working in your life right now because God's scream permanently assigned them to your protection. Your 7-second act bought 24-hour angelic protection that most people will never experience in their entire lives. But there's something else operating that's even more powerful than angelic assignment. Something that had been granted only to prophets and saints in all documented history. And now it's yours. Direct access to divine attention. I'm not saying God hears your prayers eventually. I'm revealing a real-time connection where every thought you have, every emotion you feel, every need you experience, reaches divine consciousness instantly without intermediaries, without delays, without the need for formal rituals. When you think something, God hears it in the same second. When you suffer, he feels your pain in real time as if it were his own. When you need something urgently, celestial resources mobilize automatically before you finish consciously formulating the need. Because someone whose kindness is so pure that it made God scream, surprised angels, and silenced Lucifer, deserves a connection that doesn't require formal prayers or religious intermediaries, deserves a direct line. VIP access to the attention of the creator of the universe. And this connection is generating something you've probably already noticed without fully understanding. Inexplicable synchronicities. Those situations where exactly what you need appears at the precise moment you need it. Those people who enter your life just when you can benefit from what they know or have. Those opportunities that arise as if someone designed them specifically for your unique abilities. It's not law of attraction or energy of the universe working magically. It's God orchestrating your reality personally, because your act proved that your heart deserves this level of direct divine attention. But you need to understand something else about your situation that will completely transform how you understand your life, because you're not alone in this. There are others exactly like you operating on this planet, and they're being subtly guided to find each other. Approximately 200 human beings among the 8 billion who inhabit this planet have the same level of spontaneous purity you demonstrated. 200 whose souls operate at a frequency of automatic kindness without calculating returns. 200 whose acts made God scream in recent years. They're so statistically rare that the probability of finding one is like finding a specific diamond on a beach thousands of miles long. But God is orchestrating encounters because when chosen ones of diamond-level purity consciously connect, they create energy fields so powerful they can transform entire cities. And you'll recognize them when you find them. There will be something in their eyes that reflects the same thing you see in your own mirror. A mixture of kindness that survived battles that should have destroyed it. Strength that doesn't come from hardness, but from refusing to be corrupted. And an inexplicable peace considering everything they've faced. Connect with them. Because when 2 or more chosen ones of this level decide to consciously collaborate toward a common purpose, dark forces literally cannot operate in that space. The combined purity creates a frequency so high that darkness is automatically repelled. That's why they worked so hard to keep you isolated. That's why they tried to convince you that you were alone in your kindness. Because they knew that if you connect with your peers, your power multiplies exponentially. Now I'm going to reveal something about your immediate future that the archangels showed when I asked specifically about your destiny. Within the next 60 days, you will experience what the celestial hierarchies call Act Recognition Protocol. It's a divine reorganization of your reality, where obstacles mysteriously disappear and opportunities perfectly designed for you begin to manifest. That work or financial situation that seemed unsolvable, it will resolve, but in ways that preserve your integrity. You won't have to compromise your ethics to progress. You won't have to become corrupt to prosper. The opportunity will come designed specifically for someone with your level of purity, rewarding your natural kindness with abundance that doesn't require sacrificing who you are, that relationship you need, whether deep friendship or genuine romantic connection. It will appear, but it will be with someone who vibrates at your same frequency of authenticity. No more toxic connections that drain your energy pretending to be what they're not. No more people who interpret your kindness as weakness to exploit. Someone who recognizes and values your purity is being guided toward you right now as you listen to these words. That inner peace you've been desperately seeking. It will establish itself permanently because Raphael is healing traumas you were carrying without even knowing they were there. That anxiety that tormented you will decrease dramatically. That insomnia that stole your rest will resolve, because your soul finally understands that it's not fighting alone against a hostile world. It has direct celestial support, and the specific resource you need to manifest that purpose you feel in your heart. But that seemed logistically impossible. It will flow, but not as money magically falling from the sky, as income opportunities that require exactly the skills you've developed in your life, as if someone designed situations perfectly adapted to your unique configuration. Because God is reorganizing circumstances so that you can prosper without becoming corrupt. These are not vague spiritual wishes. They are concrete transformations activated by the decree your act generated, and they will begin to manifest within 60 days, because that's how long it takes for reorganizations in spiritual dimensions to fully materialize in physical reality. But there's something else about your life you need to understand. Something that completely changes your perception of why you were born precisely at this moment in human history, instead of any other era. Your existence is not a random accident of biology and timing. You were strategically positioned at this specific moment because there's a spiritual war, determining whether humanity evolves to higher frequencies of consciousness or collapses back into primitive darkness. And chosen ones like you are among the few things preventing total collapse. Dark forces know exactly what they're doing. Their strategy is simple and devastatingly effective. If they can corrupt the last 200 chosen ones whose souls operate in spontaneous purity, if they can get them to abandon their natural kindness for realistic selfishness, then there won't be enough light on this planet to counterbalance the expanding darkness. That's why they attacked you so intensely in recent years. That's why you suffered disproportionate betrayals. That's why you faced injustices that didn't make sense. Every blow was a calculated attempt to break you, to make your soul say, it's not worth being good in this cruel world anymore, and embrace selfishness like everyone else. But they failed. Your act from 9 days ago was confirmation that your purity survived intact all their coordinated attacks. And now that you've become conscious of who you are and the role you play, you've become a key piece in planetary transformation that is beginning to accelerate. Watch carefully what's happening in the world. Corrupt systems that seemed invincible are beginning to collapse publicly. Truths that were hidden for decades are being massively revealed. People who operated in complete darkness are being exposed one after another. It's not cosmic coincidence. It's the direct result of chosen ones like you maintaining their purity when everything conspired to corrupt them. Every time you manifest spontaneous kindness, you're energetically voting for what type of reality materializes on this planet. And when 200 human beings consistently vote for purity, generosity, honesty, and genuine compassion, those votes have enough weight to tip cosmic scales toward light instead of darkness. That's why God's scream was so urgent. He wasn't just celebrating your individual purity. He was declaring to all spiritual dimensions that humanity still has hope, that not all is lost, that there are still souls whose light cannot be extinguished by the surrounding darkness no matter how hard dark forces try. And your responsibility now is to continue being exactly who you are. You don't need to become perfect. You don't need to do dramatic heroic acts. You just need to continue manifesting that spontaneous kindness that is natural to you. Because every time you do, you're generating waves in spiritual dimensions that affect realities you'll never see directly. There are people watching you without you knowing. People on the verge of abandoning their own kindness because it seems useless in this world. And when they see you maintaining your purity despite everything, when they witness that it's possible to be good without being destroyed, it gives them strength to resist one more day. Your silent example is saving souls you'll never meet personally. Chosen one, now you know the complete truth about the cosmic power your 7-second act had over spiritual dimensions. You're not an ordinary person doing an occasional favor. You're a marked chosen one whose spontaneous kindness made God scream, surprised angels who thought they had seen everything, and silenced the eternal accuser who never shuts up. That act you considered insignificant activated permanent angelic protection, direct access to divine attention, and reorganization of your destiny that will fully manifest in the next 60 days. Your spontaneous purity is not naivety that the world punishes. It's cosmic power that reorganizes realities and determines whether humanity evolves or collapses. If this revelation touched something deep in your heart, if it confirmed intuitions you always had about your special nature, you recognize that you operate at a spiritual frequency that most of humanity will never access. Your natural kindness is not weakness. It's divine force manifesting through a human being who refuses to be corrupted. For those who made it this far and want to go deeper into this celestial knowledge about how to consciously develop your ability to maintain purity in a corrupt world, there's specific material that costs less than a pizza and comes with a complete audiobook and a 5-minute meditation guide as a special bonus. If you feel you deserve to amplify your connection with the celestial hierarchies that now officially recognize you, access is available in the link in the description and pinned comment of this video. If you recognize that your natural kindness has the power to make God scream and transform realities, write 777 in the comments to amplify this frequency of celestial purity that is changing the destiny of humanity. Subscribe to this channel and turn on all notifications to receive more revelations about how your pure essence works miracles in higher dimensions that are reorganizing your life. Share this video with someone who also demonstrates genuine kindness, who may be making God scream without knowing, because chosen ones need to recognize and strengthen each other to fulfill the mission that was assigned to them. And before you go, click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now to discover how your new classification as a marked chosen one attracts automatic protection from archangels personally assigned by divine decree. Together, we are stronger,